What are your top 10 favorite anime series of all time? Let me know in the comments section below, because today I have my list of my favorite series of all time, but with this list I chose series that are all under 100 episodes so you can see them in a few days or maybe a week if you really want. And I know a lot of people come to these lists, they either expect to hear about a lot of series that they've never heard of before, to watch new things, which personally I lean towards just because I like to share new series with people that may not have seen them yet. And we also have the people that are just trying to gauge whether or not a person likes Code Geass over Death Note. And with this list, I try to exclude a lot of these super popular series that everyone has seen already and knows about, such as Bebop, Death Note, Code Geass, that sort of thing. I've seen them, I love them, I know you've seen them and you love them as well, so I try to stick to a lot of series that maybe you haven't seen and go from there. So starting off at number 10, we have Hellsing Ultimate, and I know this is a pretty popular series, but out of everything that I have on my list, in fact, out of most anime in general, there's really little that gets the blood flowing, that gets the adrenaline pumping like Hellsing Ultimate. This is a series that is so action-packed. Every single episode, if you have that craving for intense, mature action with lots of blood and gore and everything, then Hellsing Ultimate is right up your alley, especially if you're looking for something more supernatural with vampires and zombies. It's a really great series, and it's really action-packed, every single episode. Number 9 is almost the opposite of Hellsing Ultimate. The Wallflower features Sunako Nakahara as your main character, who is this very introverted girl that likes to stay in her room. She's kind of creepy. She has this long black hair that covers her face, and she can knock out the lights with her evil aura that she has at times. It's pretty funny watching that, but she stays in her room with her medical practice dummies, and she'll clean their organs out and while she's having conversations with them, and she likes to watch a lot of these gory old horror movies in her room by herself all day long. And she's a really lovable character once you get to know her, though, because she's really unique, and that's what I liked about her. But with this series, she's trapped inside of this house with all of these other guys that their objective is to turn her into this proper lady, but she's pretty much the exact opposite of that. When I first heard about the Wallflower, I was a bit pushed off to it because I thought it would be this reverse harem with a lot of female fan service, and it's not a reverse harem, but there is a bit of female fan service, and the way that it's animated, it made me think like it was a series that would be just for women, but it's not. It's something that I would recommend to everyone, and it's one of my favorite comedy series of all time. Moving on to number 8, we have Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. Now, before watching this, I would recommend watching the first Ghost in the Shell movie just to get a taste for the setting that it's in, and also some of the characters too. But with Ghost in the Shell, there's a lot of things that I like about this. Sure, you get a bit of mystery, you get a bit of action as well, but I really love this setting, how it's all futuristic, and they have these advanced technology for medicine. You can swap out your body parts or your organs for cybernetic enhancements, and there's a lot of social implications with this, such as people wondering if they're even human anymore, and then you have people that are taking advantage of this, and they're actually hacking other people's brains, they're hacking their eyes, and they're hacking their bodies, and using them to help them commit crimes. Like there's a villain in season 1 where he'll hack people's eyes so nobody can see him, and I really love that. But I also really love the characters as well, because over the span of these 50 episodes in some of the movies, you do have a lot of development. Moving on to number 7, we have a series that needs a little introduction. That is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This series contains many elements that I love out of anime, such as great drama. There's a lot of dramatic moments here. There's many suspenseful moments. There's lots of action. There's great character development here. There's lots of comedy. And also, there's bits of mystery here too, as you're trying to uncover what's going on, what are people's plans, and you know, what's going on with that. It's got great animation to it too. I've been actually watching through this lately, so you can expect a review from that. By the way, all of the series that I currently have reviews for, I will have linked in the description section below if you just want to hear me talk about it more. Moving on to number 6, we have Macross, the original Macross series. This is a must-watch for any fan of sci-fi or mech, and anyone who wants to get into mech. I think that this romance here as well, where I really enjoyed that because I felt it was more mature, and I appreciated it because there was complexity to it with a love triangle, and there was a decision to be made, and I really loved watching the show, so I definitely recommend that you watch Macross. Moving on to number 5, we have Paranoia Agent, and I really can't talk about this much just because I don't want to give too much of it away, but I do have a full review that is also spoiler-free if you want to hear more about it. But Paranoia Agent is for those of you who really love to think and uncover clues while you're watching a series. In the review I said that it's more of a visual puzzle or a mental puzzle than it is a linear viewing experience, because I would describe this series as being a social commentary that masquerades as being this horror drama mystery series. So it's really something that's got a lot of depth to it that you might have to watch a few times, but even if you don't understand it all, some of the major concepts that may have been a mystery to you are all revealed in the last episode. But still, there are plenty of other things that you need to watch it a few more times to really understand or catch certain things that you may have missed or not known that they were there the first time around. Moving on to number 4, we have Spice and Wolf, which is a series that I thought would be really boring, but in fact, it's not, and really deserves its place in my top 10 favorite anime of all time. It's definitely for more mature anime watchers who don't really need all this flashy content and super fast pacing to really enjoy it. It's for people who love to relax and watch their anime. I would definitely recommend you to watch this with the English dub, just because it's done beautifully and they have this great accent to them. They really portray these old European characters very well, in my opinion, and it really accents the setting as a whole, because there's a lot of detail to attention paid in the surroundings and like the outsides, you know, the buildings and all of the characters and everything, the clothes that they're wearing. They do a lot of great work when they're creating the setting of the series, but also it's got a lot of great character development here and great character interaction with the characters of Lawrence and Holo. The way that they interact, I really love them. In fact, Holo is one of my favorite female anime characters of all time, just because of how mature she is, and she could really nag in Lawrence, but you can tell that the characters kind of start to love each other, even though the story doesn't necessarily say that. They have this bond that they accumulate over the span of their journey throughout the series, and it's definitely one of my favorite series and some of my favorite characters here as well, so definitely check out Spice and Wolf. Moving on to number 3, we have a series that you probably have never heard of before. It's definitely a hidden gem, because in my review recently, I gave this a 10 out of 10. That is Kemonozume. This is a series that has everything. It has romance, it has sex, it has violence, it has this pretty deep evolving story, but it also has a lot of comedy as well. So you really have the story that's coming at you from all angles, containing a little bit of everything that you would want out of a series, except for extremely beautiful artwork. The artwork to the series is kind of strange, it's kind of off, and it doesn't really look all that great, but it's definitely something that you warm up to, but it really does have beautiful animation. I made the mistake of just wording it wrong in my review, saying it had bad animation, but it's got kind of bad art style, but great animation to it. How everything just flows, you'll see the characters' hair blowing in the wind, and they do great animation on this. It's got a lot of pretty crazy fights as well. It's basically about this, you have these human eaters that are going around, and then you have this group of samurai who are fighting them, but then there's also this deeper plot to it that unfolds. I don't want to spoil it because the story moves along very fast because it's really short. Anyways, Kemonozume, you have to watch this. Moving on to number 2, we have a series that I wish really didn't need any introduction, but still a lot of people haven't seen this. It is my favorite comedy of all time, not just anime, but favorite comedy in general, pertaining to movies or TV shows. Favorite comedy, that is Golden Boy, and it's only 6 episodes long. So in the span of a long movie, basically, you can have this really enjoyable experience. Now, the only things about this that may not be for everybody is that it's a very mature humor. There's a lot of nudity, there's a lot of fan service here. This is basically about this character that is this student of life. He's just traveling through, doing these odd jobs and meeting a lot of people. He's a total pervert, to the point of worshipping the toilet that this girl sat on, to catching her spit in his mouth, to swimming up behind girls and basically just landing his face right on their ass. And he's a big pervert, but he's really funny at the same time, and he's really dumb, but then again, at times you think he's this genius as well. And then you have all of these 6 episodes, which kind of, each episode is a different setting, but then in the end they all come together, so it's this complete experience. So moving on, before I get into number 1, we have a few runners-up that I wanted to talk about. One of them is Toward the Terra. I'm talking about the anime series, not the manga or not the OVA series. Personally, the anime, the longer series, is the way to go with this. The only way to go, just because it takes this older story that, in my opinion, aged horribly, and it modernizes it, and it makes it more enjoyable, in my opinion, opinion, and most other people agree with me with this as well. If you're a fan of mecha series, you'll like this because it has these massive space battles, but it doesn't include mechs. You have spaceships versus these characters that can actually fly in outer space and use psychic blast to destroy things. It's got elements of like racism here, where you have these characters that have evolved to have this psychic ability, and then you have the normal humans that are pretty much trying to wipe them out, and the humans have stronger technology and they have more numbers to them, and then you have this other race of people which have this their psychic abilities and they're being hunted, but in their defense they have this enormous psychic ability, but that makes their bodies weaker. So it is really a balanced series, but there's a war between the people, and then they're trying to have peace also. It's really enjoyable watch, so definitely check it out if you're into sci-fi, if you're into action series. I think there's a bit of romance here as well, and definitely if you're into mech too, even though if it's not a mech. But we also have Excel Saga, which is another one of my favorite series. It's one of my favorite comedy series, but it's something that I know a lot of you guys have heard of. It's this completely random, off-the-wall series, and you have your main character, she's yelling all the time, she has her partner that's dying and getting sick all the time, and it's completely random. They're trying to take over the world, and they're doing it by stupid things, such as helping people with construction work, and it's really just filled with so many off-the-wall characters that are really fun to watch, and I definitely recommend that you watch that with the English dub. Now, the last runner-up is this series that I really love, but I'm thinking that I love this more for nostalgic reasons, or maybe I'm loving the series so much just because of how I feel about the manga itself, and that's something that I try and stay away from just because it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine when there's a bad anime series that is backed by a good manga. That doesn't really defend the series being poor, and this definitely is a series that has its flaws, but it's the beginning of a greater story that you're going to have to read the manga for. But that is Shigarui Death Frenzy. If you're into definitely more mature samurai series, if you're looking for a samurai series with amazing fights and lots of blood and gore, then you should really check this one out. Personally, I put this on the same level as the Berserk anime series because it's a story about two characters that have this lifelong rivalry. Basically, in both series, you have these two characters that have this very strong rivalry with each other. They're trying to kill each other, basically, and then it goes back to show you how the rivalry gets started, and then it ends off at this point where it's just like, why did I even watch this? Why don't I just read the manga? And it's pretty much the same way that it is with Berserk, but I would have to say that Berserk overall is probably more enjoyable, even though I do feel that it does have its pacing issues. Shigarui, its animation is okay, I guess. It's animated by Madhouse, but it had a super low budget, and you can tell that they're taking a lot of shortcuts with the animation, but it's still something that I would say is one of my favorites, but it's not up there with its top 10, and it's something that I know a lot of people haven't heard of, but be prepared to have yourself wanting to read the manga of this, because that's the only way you're going to have a complete story. It's not that bad, though. The manga's only like 73 chapters, so it's not really that bad. Moving on to number 1, we have a series that I'm sure is no surprise to anyone out there. That is Welcome to the NHK. This was the number 1 on my old list a few years ago that I needed to update, but Welcome to the NHK is still my number 1, and I don't really sit there and watch it around the clock all the time like it's my favorite. It's my favorite just because of the amount of impact that it had on me. It really touched me on a deep emotional level, and almost to the point of being life-changing just because of some of the messages that I found there. Then also moving forward to reading the manga and also the novel as well, but just for the anime itself, it really is my favorite just because of the characters, the messages that are being pushed, and also basically the story as a whole. There's a lot of darker themes here, but then again, they balance it out with a lot of comedy too, so it really does get me on all angles. I love it for the romantic elements there, I love it for the messages that is being told, I love it for the characters, and also it's got a bit of comedy there too. So to me, it's a total package, but still, I would recommend for everybody out there who loves Welcome to the NHK to read the manga and also the novel, because they do things a bit differently. The manga carries on twice as far as the anime does, so definitely check out Welcome to the NHK, but it's not for everyone. So that is my top 10 anime list of all time. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your top 10, and also if you're curious about hearing more about some of the series that I mentioned, I will be posting links in the description section to all of the series that I talked about that I currently have reviews of. Some of them, they're kind of hard to watch because I had a terrible microphone at the time, or terrible camera at the time, and my style was a bit different back then, but still, I think the reviews still hold up, even though I probably should remake them. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about my list, and let me know your list in the comment section below. Thank you for all your support with the likes and comments. and I'll see you next time.